Everyone, welcome to this Clique Elevate interview series. My name is Jessa Lux. I'm the host of the Clique Elevate interview series, and I'm also the community manager of Clique Studios. Clique Studios is a digital design agency, and Clique Elevate is a membership group for the next generation of marketing leaders and CMOs to connect and support those folks. And I know that we have a number of Clique Elevate members here today, as well as people who are here to check out Clique Elevate. So welcome to all of you. And most importantly, welcome to our guests today, Aaron Goldman. Aaron is the CMO of Mediaocean, and Mediaocean is a platform that helps its clients optimize and get the best results from their omnichannel marketing campaigns. And over $150 billion of annual ad spend goes through Mediaocean's software each year, which I was blown away by. And just to give you a little bit more background on Aaron, he was previously the CMO of a company called 4C, and that was acquired by Mediaocean. And before that, the CMO of a company called Kenshu. He also founded a marketing consultancy called Connectual. And if that wasn't enough, he wrote a book called Everything I Learned About Marketing, I Learned from Google. That's roughly the title.
It's right there on the shelf.
And there is one more thing that is actually my favorite thing about Aaron, but I'm not going to tell you about it just yet, but we will get to it during the interview. And when we do, you'll know that we're there. So with that, Aaron, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me, Jess. Excited to chat with you. And I apologize that the timing on my dollar bill gun was off in the intro sequence there. I'll do better.
That's all right. Yeah, I appreciate that you're willing to improve throughout. And just so everyone knows, this is a 45-minute live interview. And I really encourage you to ask questions as they come up. Just put those in the Q&A. We can get to those during the interview. We'll also leave a little bit of time at the end for questions. But to start, let's see if the chat feature works. So answer the same question that I'm going to start by asking Aaron. It's a casual question to get us started. Aaron, what are the 3 emojis that best describe your day so far?
The 3 emojis, do they have to be different ones, or can I use the same one 3 times?
You can use the same one as many times as you'd like.
All right, I would go with the crying, laughing face, like crying so hard I'm laughing. At least that's what I think it means when I use it. I actually read an article that emoji was kind of like overused and not cool anymore. So I may need to like check myself, but I definitely had some laugh so hard I cried moments in the past week. I'm now double vaxxed and feeling invincible. Went out to hang out with some friends for the first time in well over a year, and definitely had some crying so hard, laughing moments. It was also the first time I think I'd put on anything other than sweatpants or shorts in the past year and a half. So actually, yes, maybe I do. That sets the bar for, how not cool I am. So I definitely need to go back and check my emoji usage, because I'm sure I'm off base there too.
Well, congrats on being double vaxxed. I'm half vaxxed right now. So I'm excited to be in the position that you're currently in. And how exciting that some of us are getting there, and hopefully that a lot of us will be there soon. As far as the crying, laughing emoji, I read that same article, so it must be true. That is for uncool people now. What I learned, because it's important, is the laughing emoji with the tears coming more out the side, it's sideways. That's what cooler people are doing to demonstrate they're laughing so hard they're crying.
Got it. Okay, so if I just tilt...
Just tilt the emoji. Yeah, it seems like yesterday's version is the straight up crying, laughing. Today's version is the tilted.
Got it. All right.
That's what I learned. So I also wanted to give you a chance to give us any more background on Mediaocean, since I know I gave a brief background, but is there anything else that we should know about Mediaocean before we get started?
I think you did a good job at leveling it up. As the marketing lead, I get so wrapped up in positioning and all the verbiage that it's nice to hear it reflected back from someone who doesn't sit and obsess all day about Mediaocean and how we market ourselves. But yeah, I mean, we're oriented all around this concept of omnichannel advertising. We make software and other technology applications that help marketers do that. And the company's been around for over 50 years. If anyone watched Mad Men, I think it was like early season, it was either 2 or 3, when they like wheel the big computer into the agency for the first time, and it's like so massive it has its own office and people are like staring at it. That was essentially Mediaocean. Our founder, Michael Donovan, was the first person to introduce technology into the ad agencies. And so, of course, at the time, it was a very different story, you know, just in terms of how software was used and really how advertising and media was done. You just had a few channels, print, radio, television. And then, of course, over time, things like cable came around, and then, of course, the internet, mobile. And so what Mediaocean has done is consistently introduce new tools to help marketers adapt to the additional channels that need to be considered when trying to engage consumers. And so now what you have in Mediaocean is essentially a platform that can help you plan, buy, and measure your ads across all the various channels and touch points that you would have with your customers or people that you want to become your customers.
Got it. Well, that's definitely a better description than I was able to give. So thank you for adding some color. And I wanted to start, our conversation today is mostly about omnichannel marketing, which is fitting based on what Mediaocean does. But I wanted to start at a higher level and talk to you kind of about the role as a marketing executive and a CMO. Before I ask a question though, I think only you can see me when we're on speaker view. So I was just trying to distract my dog. I'm hoping only Erin can see that happening. Of course, she woke up the second this interview started. But the question that I wanted to ask about being a marketing leader is, how is the role of CMO changing and the expectations of CMOs? And is there anything specifically that you're doing to adjust and deliver on that change?
Sure. And while we're talking about puppies, I'm sure this won't distract anybody at all while I talk. The role has definitely changed. So I've been in marketing for about 15 years. The first 5 or so years of my career I was actually in sales, and I actually think that helped me be a better marketer because of that understanding of what it is required to be on the front lines and really articulate a value proposition. All right, sorry, I can see the puppies. Clearly, no one's paying attention to me. All right, eyes up here, folks. The role of a marketer, and in particular a CMO, when you're operating at the C level, is you really have to be attached at the hip to the revenue channel for your company. And everything that we do, everything that any good marketer should be doing, should be to be able to be tied and connected to the revenue for the organization. And so in thinking through how that manifests, there's so many different, especially in today's world, so many different ways that you can connect with customers. And ultimately, for many businesses, there's multiple revenue models. And so as a marketer, in my case as a CMO, thinking through all the different ways to support that, be a partner to the sales and revenue function. In my world as a B2B marketer, right, business to business, sales enablement is a big part of the role. And then also just customer experience is becoming more and more important part of the marketing function, and that's B2B and B2C, thinking through every interaction with a customer as an opportunity to make an impression, and for better or worse. And so it's becoming a more important part of the role to think through how the customer experience manifests at all these different touch points and what you as a marketing team can do to influence that.
Totally. And this was not a plant, but you did just unintentionally plug our next Clique Elevate event, which is a roundtable about demonstrating ROI. So how do you really demonstrate the revenue that you're creating as a marketing team? So that makes a lot of sense. Is there anything that you see so you're obviously kind of at the head of the marketing department in your organization, and you have been for quite a while. Is there any recommendations that you can make to marketing managers to help them either overcome or avoid a common challenge that you see in marketing teams today?
Sure. Yeah, I think continuing to stay current with your customers is so important. And if you just let yourself sort of come off the front lines, you'll quickly lose a lot of the key insights that will help create effective marketing. And so some companies are better at this than others in terms of like encouraging or in some cases even forcing those interactions. You hear about some companies that make you join the call center for a day if it's that type of business, or go along on sales calls. And I think as in developing those insights and understanding of the customer needs, you're inevitably going to be able to bring new ideas, solutions, opportunities to the marketing function. And so that's probably the second tip, is to just be proactive in that pursuit. All right, don't wait to be told. This is, this can be applied to any sort of career growth talk, but certainly being proactive and finding new and novel ways to address challenges, especially like in my job as a CMO. Like we were talking about, I can barely keep up on like what emojis are cool, much less the myriad other ways that the average person out there is communicating. So I need that help. I need folks who are dialed in to be able to be feeding that. And I guess the third piece is, in feeding that, it's coming with the kind of the why behind the what. I think a lot of people get trapped in the what, which is just regurgitation of data. Hey, look, here's a chart that shows you what's happening. Hey, here's the number of visits to our website by channel, or look, here are the top keywords from SEO, or here are the ads that are getting the most clicks. Okay, that's an important start. And as marketers, we have more data than we've ever had at any point in our lives, which is great. But it's, what does the data tell us? What are the insights? What's the why behind the what? And if you can condition yourself to be a person that is bringing the why behind the what, that's telling the story behind the data, you're going to be an invaluable resource and be in line for that opportunity further up in the team, in the organization, because you'll be positioned as someone who can take data, and that's again really important in our role, but be able to package it up in a way that makes it understandable to others. I think a lot of people, especially when I go into like a board meeting with all of my charts and all of my slides, like that can just be overwhelming, and you'll get either one of two reactions. You'll either get like the glazed over look, like I don't care, or you'll get sort of like the disbelief. If I could cue back up that the emoji of this guy right here, kind of like looking over, being like, yeah, I don't think so. Like, you say that your return on marketing investment is 7 to 1, but I'm not really buying all this. And so those are the types of things I think that you can think about and have yourself. I can actually even give you an example too. I'm going way off a script here, but hey, that's what we do, right?
I love it.
Yeah, I was thinking about this the other day. We were talking about the vaccines, and this was a conversation I was having with my friends, was just how in the whole vaccine rollout, at least here in the United States, we're missing the why behind the what. The stories aren't coming out of the data, right? So you would see, as new vaccines would go through trials, the data would come out. Pfizer 91% effective, Moderna 90%, then like Johnson & Johnson 72%. And okay, important data, like we need to know that. But what was missing was like the storytelling behind it, the marketing behind it, and the packaging of it up in a way like, what does that mean to me? 70% effectiveness. Okay, so for some people, hey, that's great. 7 out of 10 chance I get this shot, I don't get COVID. Others would look at it and say, oh my gosh, 3 in 10 chance I'll still get it. Like, I don't, I'm not, maybe I'm not sure. But then like, let's go deeper, right? If you do get it, like, what are the odds that you'll get a bad case, right? I think it was like, next to 0 hospitalizations, and then it was 0 deaths in the trial. And so we're seeing all these headlines, the whole PR campaign around, and in this case, I'm picking on Johnson & Johnson, but I think it was, relatively widespread. It should have just been like the whole headline is, no one dies after getting the shot. Now, of course, there's sort of another development that's happened with the blood clots, and so there is some cases that have come out, and in some cases some deaths. Very small amount in the grand scheme of things, but of course important to consider. But through all this, it was just the data that was leading the narrative, rather than a story. So 18, I'm not sure at this point, cases of severe blood clotting issues out of like 8 million. What about the 7.999 million people who got it and have avoided death? Where are their stories? Talk about the lives that they're living. Talk about the fact that they are able to go out and have dinner with their friends. Like, we're missing in this whole story the story behind the data, the insights. And I guess maybe that, I don't know if that helps illustrate the point I was trying to make. Hopefully it does. But the idea is, you can't just let the data do the talking for you. You have to be, package it up in a way that's meaningful and connects with people.
Yeah, that totally helps. And I think the data as marketers is probably easier to get than the why behind the but. So my question is, do you get the why behind the but in the best way by having conversations with your audience? Or is that just part of how to get the why behind the but? And it sounds like it's important to have the why, both for making your internal decisions and for adjusting your messaging externally, so it's actually like resonating with your audience. Is that right?
Yes. And I should clarify, the expression I was using was the why behind the what.
Sorry, the why behind the what. I knew that that's what it was as I was saying it.
No, that's okay. But there's something interesting there. We can maybe even take this in. This whole thing has been like one big improv exercise anyway so far. So why stop there? There's that, that famous improv lesson, yes and, right? You want to continue to build on what people say. Like if you were to walk into a scene and say, oh, hey, Aaron, great weather we're having, and I say, well, what are you talking about, Jess? So, no, it's, but it's been raining nonstop. Like I've completely derailed where you were going with this. The idea is instead to build on it. Like, yes, it is great weather, and I'm so excited to be able to, wear shorts for the 365th day, but this time I can go outside in them, and build from there. Whereas if someone came in with a no but, then that just ends, that ends the scene. There's nowhere to go from there. I think that probably connects into this whole idea of storytelling based off of data. Like if you look at a chart and try and find that insight and present it in a team meeting or something, and you're immediately met with like resistance. Oh no, but that can't be right. Like that just, that keyword was only popular because of something else that was happening. Like we should optimize our whole site for that. That was like a one-time thing. Or no, but like we should, the paid search part of the program was really what was driving that, because we had 2 listings on the Google page. Just making stuff up. But the idea of yes and combined with the why behind the what, so the explanation of why things are happening, not just presenting and regurgitating data, is what's going to separate the wheat from the chaff.
Got it. Okay. Thank you for the clarification. Thank you for the correction. And one thing that now that we're kind of jumping into omnichannel specifically, I have to admit, and I was glad to see the title of the book that you wrote, Everything I Know About Marketing I Learned from Google, because it makes it slightly less embarrassing for me to admit this. I did at one point when I was researching for this interview, Google what is omnichannel marketing. And that is because it was not completely clear in my mind the difference between omnichannel marketing and multi-channel marketing. So for anyone in the audience who might have a little bit of lack of clarity around omnichannel marketing, will you just sum it up for us?
Yeah, I mean, I think at its most simple level, multi-channel marketing is more than one channel, and omni-channel marketing is all channels. And when we think about omni-channel, it's a mindset more than anything else. To actually be in every single channel, engaging with your customers, takes a lot of effort, and in most cases a lot of money. And we're not all blessed with the budgets of some of the world's largest companies that can truly be omni-channel. But you can think omni-channel, and I think that's what it's really all about. We talk about how marketers need to market the way consumers consume, which is sort of always on, across devices, screens, speakers, in your ear. And so that mindset of understanding your customer, understanding all the different ways that they consume information, entertainment, the way that they do commerce, across all those different touch points, mapping that out, and then thinking about where you as a marketer can insert yourself to be relevant to them, not to interrupt ideally, but to actually add value. That's to me the essence of omnichannel marketing. And multi-channel marketing is a great step. It means you're in more than one place, right? If your primary channel, let's say most of your business is done over the phone, right? You might, also, you can have your other channels tie back to that. That's ultimately just about, having the right connections and calls to action, right? You can still have a website, an app, and all those things can drive to, have a phone call be generated. And in so doing, you're beginning to practice this essence of omnichannel marketing. But that's just it. It's practice. If anyone takes yoga or is into sort of that whole wellness thing, like it's the idea that it's a practice. It's never, you're always improving. You're always getting better. You're never there. That's how I think of omnichannel marketing, right? Like it's a practice. You're never all the way there unless you're like one of the world's largest companies with infinite marketing budget.
Cool. Okay. So you're not like trying to get to the finish line. You're trying to move towards the finish line, and be everywhere that your customer is, providing value in those spaces.
You got it.
Does omnichannel marketing also have to do with how those channels interact with each other? Like, is one thing that might be a misconception of mine that I associated with omnichannel marketing was the type of marketing that's like an email that you receive that would be like, your shopping cart misses you. So you're getting an email because of how you interacted with this brand in a different channel. Is that a necessary characteristic of omnichannel marketing or just an option within it?
I would say the latter. It's an option within it. It's an optimal option, right? If you can get to that point, right? There's omnichannel marketing, and then there's good omnichannel marketing. Right? Just being present in every channel, is important, but that's not going to be enough. And it's thinking about, okay, what needs to change about the way I'm interacting or presenting my product or service based on all the context and information I know about this point in the proverbial customer journey, and making sure that, again, back to adding value, not interrupting. And part of that is not being creepy, right? So the idea that someone was shopping for something and may have abandoned their cart is an important insight. And then you can think about, okay, the next time you see that person at a different channel, you can find a way to, and you should tailor your message based on what you know about them, but doing it in a way that hopefully doesn't scare them off becomes the imperative. And so yeah, back to your original question, it's important, and you should do it. You don't have to do it. I think it's crawl, walk, run, right? If we're back to the practice and race and analogy there, it's the basic building blocks, get into multi-channel, then get into omni-channel, and then from there it's about, okay, how can I make sure that at each touch point I'm customizing the messaging? How can I make sure that I'm measuring all the interactions so that I can close the loop back? And then from there, you just keep building.
Got it. And you already kind of touched on some do's and don'ts. One of the don'ts sounds like it's don't be creepy, even if you can be, don't be. And I want to get more into that. But first, are there business types that omnichannel marketing is more important for than others?
No, I don't think so. I think it's important to any type of business. I think it's all about the customer that you're serving, right? And so it's possible that if you have a very small, narrow audience that you're trying to reach, and those people really are spending most of their time in one channel, and the channel could be a media channel like television, could be Fox News, it could be a retail channel. These are people who still prefer to go into a store, or these days at least go and have the thing brought out for curbside pickup. In those cases, omnichannel has a different definition, right? Again, I'm stereotyping here, but if it's an older cohort that is not super fluid with mobile apps, and again spends most of their time maybe just watching cable TV, then you still want to have that omni-channel mindset, but it's a much more narrow application of putting that mindset into practice than it would be, say, with a if we're gonna, stereotype, and maybe we'll throw like millennials in who are, on every device all the time, multiple channels. And if you really want to kind of surround them and show that your brand is relevant to their lives, you have to be thinking and operating in a lot more places.
Okay, got it. So execution might just be a little bit different. If most of your audience are seniors, you don't necessarily have to put a lot of effort into TikTok or Snapchat.
Correct.
Okay, so let's get back into what differentiates. I'm assuming that because Mediaocean sees a ton of data and a ton of campaigns for their customers with omnichannel marketing. Do you have a good sense of what differentiates customers that are getting kind of more run-of-the-mill or average results with those campaigns versus customers that are having outstanding results? Are those outstanding results based on any certain tactics that customers are using?
I'd point to two things, one of which we covered, which is that optimization of the creative message, right? Not just using the same message or the same ad at every single touch point, but doing it in a more automated and dynamic way based on what you know about the person, what they've done recently, what they're interested in. If they are an active customer of yours, what have they bought? When was the last time they interacted? And then the other, we talked a little bit about it, is measurement, being able to close that loop. And that becomes so important, because if they've interacted with any of your marketing, you can, of course, then not only tailor the next experience to them, but you can understand which channels are more effective than others and begin to move your budget and align your resources accordingly. And so I think both of those go back to kind of a general adage about trying to automate what can be automated, and not just sort of manually or bluntly trying to approach the marketplace and say, all right, I'm just gonna put my energy here and one way broadcast out my message. Even though you're in love with your product and service, there's inevitably others that are going to be similar, and you have to find a way to be able to differentiate and stand out. And I do think when we look across the board, it's creative and measurement. Also the measurement too, by the way, it's not always just about, it is certainly leading back to some sort of revenue metric, sales, however your organization defines that. But there's a number of like smaller, what I call proxy metrics that lead up to that, right? Because if you're in a high consideration category like automotive, right? Like people, are only buying cars every so often. It's a big ticket purchase. And so thinking about proxy metrics like visiting a dealer, taking a test drive, customizing a make and model through a configurator on a website or in an app, like those are really important metrics. And you can understand some channels are better at driving people into that experience, and then others are better at actually getting them on the lot. And then once they're on the lot, what can you be doing there? And when they've left the lot, how can you be re-engaging them? And that's where measurement really becomes important. And especially now, it's a hot topic because the ways that you can measure are changing. Apple's making changes, Google's making changes in terms of what you can track on people and how you can use that data and information. And so as an organization, having an understanding of what you need to do to be able to continue to have that visibility and be able to continue to measure and close that loop is, again, going to separate kind of the haves from the have-nots.
Yeah, that makes sense. And on the first point that you made about creative, when you and I initially spoke about this, you mentioned kind of humanizing your messaging and not using marketing jargon. Does that advice fall into that first category that you mentioned?
Yeah, definitely. I think that we get so wrapped up sometimes in our own organizations, businesses, products, services. As the marketing team, we're writing the brand guidelines and saying everyone must describe what we do this way, and every message must have this sort of look, feel, tone. Our icon needs to be present in every situation. And so I think as what gets lost in there, that's really just the palette, right? And from there, what you put on the canvas needs to be framed in a way that the people you're trying to talk to will understand. And that's why I always try and say and think about like talking, like if you're actually just talking to the person and this wasn't like an interactive mobile app or website or one way, maybe like, a print message or a text message, like how would you, if it's just two people talking, like how would you be talking about it? And using that language. In some ways, I think this whole proliferation of speakers, has also in some ways been helpful. In other ways, it's been bad because now you're trained to, to talk to your speaker and say things to. I won't say her name because then she'll go off. But I have a speaker with a name that starts with A and ends with Exa. And if in speaking, kind of conversation, there's certain things that conversationally she'll understand and be able to respond to. Others you have to know like the right keyword, trigger to get her to really, if you really want it added to your shopping list, you got to say it in a certain way. In some ways it's good because it forces to think, okay, would like the, robot speaker understand me? In other ways, they're starting to get into these non-human exchanges. Like the way I would talk to her, I would never talk to anybody else, mostly because I'm always bossing her around, and that would be like pretty rude to anyone in the real world. And so I think kind of putting those things aside and just thinking like, if you were with somebody face to face, having a conversation, how would you be talking about it? And would the person be able to understand? And that's a pretty good rule for what would pass muster in terms of marketing copy.
I am resisting every temptation to ask your speaker to do something right now, but it really would only be derailing the interview for me. It's interesting though that you say that about marketing jargon and just kind of like business jargon as people are speaking. One of my previous interviews was with Rohit Bhargava, and he said something similar. He was like, you describe your business or what you're excited about with friends at a bar, and you get them really excited and they're tracking with you. And then you describe it in a conference room and you make no sense. It's the same people that you could have drinks with at a bar, but you're describing it totally differently. So I think it's clearly something that's tempting for people, but not necessarily effective.
Yeah, totally. I may date myself here with this reference, but Rosie from the Jetsons, like, was this early like imagination of like how robots, in our homes could add value. And of course, she's essentially just doing robot tasks of things that people did in the home, clean, cook, and of course now the applications of robots in the home are so many and varied. But what always resonated for me about Rosie was that it was, she was more like a person that you would actually like talk to. And I think when we're in our spaces and places and thinking about ways like we can, what can and should be automated, like let's not forget that there's an emotional, like you can never place that emotion that you feel with people, and that needs to come through in your marketing, right? As a brand, you want to, how can you think about eliciting that emotional response? Because if it's just coming down to like which product's the cheapest, which product has, the certain specs that someone might be looking for, especially in today's day and age where people can order off of, Amazon for, cheap clones of your product, you're likely going to lose unless you have that emotional resonance. And that comes back to the storytelling that we talked about earlier.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Bye, Rosie.
Bye, Rosie. By the way, everyone, Erin's using software called for all of this cool interaction that we have. And I'm so excited that you're doing it because just today I was thinking about like, what are factors that can make these webinars or interviews a little more fun and interesting for people? And I think I manifested this interview and how great it's been just with you keeping us entertained with and so
far I've avoided, doing the full sales pitch, Well, let me tell you about omnichannel marketing. It all begins with media intelligence and then spirals in. No, I won't do that.
Could hire you to be their ambassador. I'm definitely.
You know what I would do? This is going to date me too. Remember the Abbott and Costello routine? Who's on first? Like that would be my whole like marketing plan. Like what app are you using? To do all this cool stuff, Erin? No, really, like, what is it? I want to know. I want to download it. No, what is the name of the app? All right, forget about it. I'll just figure it out myself. What should I Google?
Totally. Yeah, their name is so like brave, and I actually found it really memorable. So yeah, kudos to And I'm going to jump into another question, but I also would encourage anyone viewing to ask your questions now. It looks like we have 9 minutes left. So ask your questions for Aaron now, and we'll get to those. I'm actually going to read this last question because it's a quote from one of your LinkedIn posts. So in one of your recent LinkedIn posts, you said the competitive advantage will go to those who can understand what's changed and keep track of what is still changing faster and more accurately than everyone else. So what is the best way for marketers to keep their finger on the pulse so that they're keeping up like this?
Read articles about which emojis are cool, because apparently that's critical to success. By the way, and I'll come back to your question. One of the cool things, talking about like context signals for your omnichannel marketing, you can do emoji targeting on like Twitter, for example. You can target ads instead of a keyword. You can target it to an emoji. So someone who's done that laughing, crying face or the tilted one, you can show them a different ad than someone who's doing like full crying face. So interesting tidbit there. How do you keep your fingers on the pulse? I can think of two ways. I'm sure there's a ton more. The first is just dedicating time for yourself to read, listen, consume content that's about the latest trends. We oftentimes get so busy, our lives are hectic. Carving out that time and space, for me, like without the commute now to an office, like I lost that like 30 minutes each way a day where I can make sure I was either reading the industry trade publications or listening to a podcast. I'm not great, despite what I've been able to do so far here. I'm not great at multitasking, and so I can't just like listen to a podcast while I'm getting work done. So instead I have to find times throughout my day to be able to do that type of stuff. And then it's also not just the standard marketing, advertising, communications publications, but things about like current events, even some nonfiction. Just let the brain sort of actually a good mix of fiction and nonfiction, I think, is important too. It helps you just get outside of your head and your sort of projects for a minute or hopefully more, and be able to get a bigger grasp of what's happening, or just allow your brain to think a bit. And then, so that's something you can do, again, fitting it into your schedule. And then the other is just asking a lot of questions. People around you, in my case, like my kids, are focus groups. And so, I was early to Roblox stock because, I just knew my kids are spending hours a day on it. There's a there. Obviously TikTok, I was, that trend has been around for a while. I was early to it because my kids were on it. And also with coworkers, hiring people and staffing your teams with people who bring a diverse set of experience, so that it's not just the same people talking about the same things, bringing the same ideas. I think that's really important, to surround yourself and prioritize diversity in your teams and your partners, in the content even that you're consuming, back to the earlier point, so that you can be getting these different viewpoints and understanding, and those will all turn into potential insights that you can apply to your marketing.
That's a great answer. I'm not a multitasker either. I don't know how people can listen to podcasts and do anything else. Like one foot in front of another is hard enough for me.
Yeah, people like crush a podcast while working out. I'm like, maybe if it was like, I don't know. I can't like listen. I need like hard beats to keep me, moving, not like, some talk radio. But at any rate, good for them who can.
Totally. And on the last point you made about having a diverse team, it actually reminds me of a conversation that I had with a woman who I know is not on this call, but she was hired recently, and she was so excited because she said that she is like a clone of her boss. She's like, we think the same, we got the same results on the personality thing. And I was just like, that doesn't seem like the perfect way to hire. Like at Clique, we hire for value fit. So we align on our 3 values, and beyond that, we hire for growth. So like how can we find someone who's different experiences, different perspective, basically what you were saying. And that seems to work really well. So glad to have that like-mindedness with you on that. But we do have some questions that have come in. So I'll ask one. It's from Brent. He said, do you see a notable difference in omnichannel marketing strategy effectiveness or success with brands and businesses that are selling high involvement products like Mercedes versus low involvement categories like candles or toothpaste?
Difference, yes. Was the question, do I see a difference, or is one more effective than the other? Well, why don't I just answer both?
Yeah, you can answer both.
Sure. Yes, I think there's a difference, but effectiveness, I think, is in the eye of the beholder, right? A Mercedes is a, once for a lot of people, a never in a lifetime purchase. For those that can, it's a once, and God bless them if it's twice or three times. I want to be in that audience cohort. But there's so many micro moments that make up that decision, and a lot of them get implanted at an early age. That affinity, like someday I want to grow up and own a Benz. I think, and then with the low consideration, like a doorknob or a door handle, there's also going to be many moments that are going to potentially influence when that person makes that decision. Sometimes it might just be literally at the point of purchase, whether in store or online. I'm looking and I'm just going to sort by Prime and 4-star reviews, and then sort by price. Other times I'm going to know, like, there's a certain brand that's better than others because I've heard about it, I've researched it, or a message got to me, it was recommended by a friend. And so it's hard to say that, it's any more or less important in either of those situations. It's really just about dissecting that purchase behavior, understanding your customer segment, and then finding all the ways that you can be present at those critical apertures when the decision's being made.
Okay, cool. And I have probably time for one more question, and then we're going to reveal my favorite thing about you. The last question is, what do you think marketing is going to look like in 5 years? That's from Michael.
Marketing in 5 years, I think, is going to not feel so much like marketing, both to the consumer and to the marketer. What I mean by that is things are going to be much more automated and integrated. So rather than like these planning cycles, where as marketers we go through and we set our budgets and we develop our strategies and tactics and put it into a flow chart and then execute it through our project management software. We're already moving in this direction. It's gonna be a lot more about developing the insights and then the assets and uploading them into platforms that will then do the rest for us. They will shoot the right message to the right person at the right channel. That, of course, is a big part of the Mediaocean value proposition. The integration piece, the consumer standpoint, is that rather than more time spent with what feel like commercial messages, it's going to be the products and services going to be much more integrated into our everyday lives. These speakers we were talking about, other devices, gadgets, the Internet of Things, the development of 5G and the adoption of that is going to mean that all of these little things can connect. And it won't feel like marketing when your refrigerator is blinking that you're out of milk and says that it can have Instacart get it to you by the end of the day. That won't feel like marketing, but the milk brand, the retail store that's going to deliver it, like there's going to be a number of marketers that have had to have created the ability for that to happen. And so that's just one example, but I think you'll see that in a lot of places where the marketing will sort of happen underneath the surface. It'll add more value to the customer and for the brands and the marketers. In some ways, it'll make our jobs easier because we can just sort of lean back and let the robots do the work. In other ways, it's going to be harder because you're going to have to make sure that you're fully integrated into those workflows.
Totally. That sounds like a positive thing, both for marketers and for consumers. So that's a great answer. All of your answers have been great. I've learned so much. I'm going to say thank you before I give this last prompt. So thank you, Aaron. I appreciate you taking the time so much. This has, between this circle of trust, been the most fun Clique Elevate interview that I've done so far. So thank you for making it so fun. Thank you for being so open with sharing with us today. And my last question is a Clique Elevate interview series first, which is, would you mind rapping for us about some of the things we've talked about today and take us out with a rap?
I certainly can. I think I need to update my background accordingly. Why don't we go with this? All right, I'm in here somewhere. Yo, it's AG coming at you in 3D. Maybe not, maybe it's 4D, maybe 5G. I don't know, but I got the flow and I got Jessa telling me it's time to go. But we got a couple more minutes. I got a couple more rhymes. I like to do this every single time we talk about where everything happens. It's omnichannel, and we ain't gonna matter anymore if we can reach our customer here or for. Every time I say the one thing you got to remember is that every channel, every day, every way, that's the play for marketers today and tomorrow. 5 years. Peace out. AG, Mediaocean, Clique, Elevate.
Yes! Eric Goldman in the house. That was amazing. And my cheeks hurt from smiling so big. My Zoom just asked me if I was playing music, so they picked that up. But Aaron, thank you again. Thank you everyone so much for being here. Have a great rest of your day. Bye from Maisel too. Bye everyone.
Thanks. Bye-bye.